Hello and welcome. In this video we are going to take a look at how to create a class from XML. So for example, if you're consuming an API or a web service and you are getting back XML, you might want to go ahead and deserialize that into an object, and in doing so you'll need to create a class that represents that XML. However, Visual Studio has a neat little feature to do that very quickly. So not a lot of people know about this, or certainly I've come across a few people that haven't. So let's have a quick look because it might help somebody else out. So what I've got here is I've got some XML. I just actually grabbed this from some sample XML online that I found. As you can see, it's pretty simple. It contains a book. In this instance, it's a Visual Studio book. I haven't really paid much attention to the XML, but it's besides the point really. So we've got ourselves some XML. Okay, so let's say for example we wanted to create a class that represents this XML. Obviously we'd need a few properties. We'd need author, title, genre, price, published date, etc, etc. Now obviously it wouldn't take very long to create a class like this, but you might have some XML that's quite large, quite vast, and contains lots of various different elements. So let's go ahead and fire up Visual Studio and let's have a quick look at how you might go about creating a class really quickly. And if you don't know how to do this, you're going to be quite surprised at how easy it is. So I'm literally just going to choose an ASP.NET web application. I'm going to click next. I'm literally going to click on create. Web forms is fine because it doesn't really make much of a difference. So we'll wait for that to start. Alright, great, we've got a project. So normally what you'd have is you'd have a folder and you'd probably call it model. This is slightly besides the point, but let's say you've got either model or you might call it models. Doesn't really make much difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click that and say add a new item, and we're going to add a class file. I'm actually going to go ahead and call it book because we know that we're going to be creating a book class. And as you can see, pretty much bog standard boilerplate class. So if we go ahead and open our book XML again, I'm going to select the whole, actually I'm not going to select the whole thing, I'm just going to select the actual root XML element, which is book. I'm going to ignore the XML version at the top because I don't think that's going to play a role in this. I'm going to highlight the existing class because we're not going to need that, and I'm going to click edit, paste special, okay, and I'm going to click paste XML as classes, and as you can see it didn't paste the XML, it actually pasted a class. So let's go up to the top, make sure it all looks good. As you can see, we've got a note here. Generated code may require at least the .NET Framework 4.5 or .NET Core 2.0. Now that seems reasonable. You can check by just going to Project, Properties, and we're using 4.7.2, which is absolutely fine because it is greater than 4.5. And as you can see, if we have a quick look, we've got all of the fields that we needed. These are private, but you can see what Visual Studio has kindly done for us. It's created a number of public properties, and it's also created the get and the set methods. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And obviously what you can see also, it's added a few attributes here as well that will help with XML serialization. And so what's useful to know is that now you've created this class, you could actually go ahead and use this class in your code. And if for example you were consuming an API that was returning this XML, you could go ahead and deserialize that XML, which will come back probably as a string into this class, and vice versa. Obviously you could go ahead and serialize this class again into a string if you wanted to. Let me just go ahead let me see. Okay, so this is a web forms project. I'm just going to show you that you can actually just use that class. Now obviously if I type book, it's not going to work, is it? Book, my book equal to new book. Now obviously it's not working. Can anyone guess why it's not working? Let's try and build it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because the namespace isn't in this file. So when you create a class within a folder, generally speaking, the convention is to put it in its own namespace, which coincides with the name of the folder. So obviously if we want to access that class, we're going to have to use that namespace. So I can do it a couple of ways. I can copy it and I can just actually add it at the top. If I build that, excellent, it works. Likewise, if you're feeling really lazy, you can actually hover over the highlighted word, click on this little drop down, and you can just click on that top one there, which is going to add the using statement for you. So there's loads of little tips and tricks that Visual Studio has when you get used to them. And you know, we can go ahead and we can say my book dot, and as you can see, we've got all of the fields that we had in the XML title. We can go ahead and set that to something. I'm lacking some inspiration. Something. You know, you could go ahead and set up the other properties as well if you wanted to. So that probably wraps it up for this video. I'll probably do another video where we look at XML serialization and deserialization. But for now, I just wanted to share that little tip. I hope you found it useful. If you did, go ahead and like the video for me. It really helps for the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see similar content to this going forward, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. And until next time, take care.